I think Dave's principles when it comes to money, when it comes to financial literacy, is phenomenal. So I'm never here to say that, again, my way is better than Dave or, anyone out there. But what I do know is he's definitely intelligent when it comes to financial literacy. And he does know that 80% of people are paycheck to paycheck. The reason why they're paycheck to paycheck is they're not producing enough income. And or if they are producing enough income, just very simple, income versus expenses. Their expenses, that credit, that debt is you.
All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Patriot on Purpose. This is the spot where we get into the nitty gritty with some of the most forward-thinking folks who are not just changing the game, but also paving the way for a life full of freedom and purpose. And with that in mind, very excited to have Tyler Bossetti with us today. Tyler just isn't any entrepreneur. He's had a lot of success in the real estate space. He's coached and consulted thousands of clients on just success, being successful in business. He's got a really exciting software tech company now that he's going to tell us a little bit more about that. But in general, when we got introduced to Tyler, we immediately thought of all of you and ourselves, and what an interesting time that we're living. A lot of things going on economically, a lot of things going on socially. And again, like we're really wanting to bring a truthful message to you and to everyone that's willing to listen. And by doing so, providing information enables people to just protect themselves, protect their families, make the best possible decisions to just continue to live their best life. And, doing it here in one of the greatest, if not the greatest country in the world, the United States. With that, Tyler, thanks for being here with us today, man. And you could do a lot, man. Break it down for us. What exactly are you doing for the world today?
Whoa. Before we get there, let's talk about Patriot on Purpose and the question that we always ask everybody when they get on here. I think it's fundamental to understanding this show and also understanding you. So we all have different interpretations of what a patriot is. We're hoping that by and large Americans begin to agree on this word, that it's not a dirty word any longer, as it has made to be over the past few years. So what is a patriot to you, Tyler?
Well, recently moving to Boston, and first off, Adam, Nate, appreciate the opportunity. Thank you guys for having me here. Being in Boston, apparently it's this mediocre football team now. Unfortunately ruined a lot of my Sundays and Mondays and everything in between with lovely Tom Brady. I'm a diehard Packers fan, and we're going to win the Super Bowl this year, so just throwing that out there. But what does a patriot mean to me, Adam? I think it comes to freedom, right? And it comes to what you were saying, Nate, is control, right? Like I think a lot of humans want control at the end of the day, and control can be obviously positive, it can be negative, but that's the name of my podcast show, All for Nothing, because I think a lot of people just do things day in and day out and have nothing to show for it. They look back at their week and they say, man, I worked all these hours, I didn't make any money, right? I worked all these years, I have no assets. Doing all these things for nothing. Or maybe there's somebody that was not like me and they grew up with some wealth in the household, but dude, 70+% of the time it returns back to poverty within the second generation. So this is where the alignment is, right? Like Nate, you and I talked on the phone before we hopped on the podcast show, got to know each other more. And there's just a lot of synergies in what we value, what we believe. And to me, again, a patriot just is symbolism in America, in particular to freedom, to throw in the T in the Boston Harbor to say, you ain't taxing my tea, right? Like having that control, but in a positive manner, right? Not in necessarily a negative manner, because I think when we start talking about other symbolisms of freedom, such as freedom of speech, gun rights, what women may or may not be able to do to their bodies, I think it can get toxic and get negative. But I think it's kind of cool when you ask people these very controversial things. You can kind of see, in my personal opinion, at least speaking for myself, if you would have asked me what about gun laws 5 years ago, to ask me about gun laws now, or what does a patriot mean 5 years ago to now, I think that's the beauty of humans as well, is seeing where their headspace is. Like, are they coming from it from a negative stance and trying to take jabs at you? Or are they just saying, hey, this is my value, my belief, and how I view things, whether it's the word patriot or not? Here's a line in the sand. Good luck trying to cross it. I'm not going to come over this side and take a shot at you necessarily, but don't cross my line. So that's a long-winded answer, Adam, to what a patriot means to me.
Right on. All right, Nate, take it away. Just had to make sure I got that in there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, again, just wanted to make sure that we really painted a nice, clear stroke of what it is that you've been doing, Tyler, for anyone that's just trying to figure out who you are. Could you kind of break that down for just give us a high level of who you are and what you've been up to and how you've been helping people?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've coached and consulted, thousands of people over the years, as you mentioned, Nate. And one thing that I've recently rolled out at the beginning of 2024, worked on it all of 2023, was an algorithm trading bot company. So the number one reason why people lose money is this lovely thing. And the number one reason why people make money is emotions, right? Like if you're buying a stock, buying crypto, like someone has to win, someone has to lose. And whether that's in real estate, whether that's in stocks, whether that's even in making really any decision, like there's emotions involved. And that's not bad, right? But most of the time people are using negative emotions such as fear, FOMO, fear of missing out, greed, to where they think Bitcoin is going to never stop going up. And you got to have perspective to say like, yo, you 2 to 3x your money doing nothing. Like you should maybe consider pulling some profits out. And to set the record straight, disclosure, none of this is financial, tax, legal advice. This is just sharing my opinions. So what's been intriguing over the years is helping people as an entrepreneur, giving them information, right? Such as, hey, the foundation of your finances is credit. So let's start there. Let's start with what controls everyone's life, which is money, and understanding what money is and how the financial system works, and how credit is a part of our day-to-day life, whether you're going to college, whether you're getting an auto loan, whether you're getting a mortgage, and how can we leverage this information, and how can we leverage credit to not get destroyed by the number one reason why people get destroyed with money, high interest debt. So how can we use debt, which is in my opinion, whether it's high interest or not, it's opportunity. How can we get access to debt, get access to credit, to either eliminate high interest debt, right? Be able to move these high interest credit cards over to 0% interest credit cards. Or how can we use that capital, which is the number one reason why businesses fail? How can we use that capital to deploy into starting and scaling a business? How can we use that capital, other people's money, credit, to go put that as a down payment legally and go raise money, or maybe use a hard money lender to 100% finance an asset that's cash flowing for you. So again, you're not working day in and day out doing it all for nothing. And that's what I've helped thousands of people with. But in the last year and a half, what's been really cool is, in my personal opinion, outside of building a business, outside of, even having a job and a side hustle, buying real estate, the proven things that's worked, right? Dollar cost averaging the S&P 500, which is the largest 500 companies in the world, that typically produced about a 9.7%, give or take, the last couple of decades of returns. How can I create something that the client can have access to on their phone, on their computer, anywhere in the world? They have access to their funds, and it's actually moving the needle, and it's actually quote unquote passive. I don't like to use the word passive often, really, if ever, because if you have any type of investment in anything, whether it's time, money, or both, I think you should be keeping your eye on the ball. But how can we design something? How can we design an algorithm that is trading in the markets for the thousands of people that I've helped over the years to earn them additional income? Because look, since 2020, where a lot of these things came to the surface, the US dollar lost over 25% of its value. So $100,000 in 2020 to literally this time 4 years ago, hypothetically, that 100,000 is worth $75,000, right? And every day that goes by, it's worth less and less and less. So to recap that, it's what have I done? What am I continuing to do? I'm here to help people personally, professionally, financially. A lot of people will come to me to get business coaching, consulting, and they're like, hey, I want to go buy a real estate property, or I want to go make this investment. And I usually will ask a certain set of questions, get to know them more, understand their pain points more. And I break things down into 3 categories of money: make money, keep money, and invest money. And what do I mean by that? Well, are they actually making enough fucking money to float their bills, float a lifestyle, and they're not living a life like a peasant, right? They're not just getting by, or they're getting crushed by high interest. Because if that's the case, we got to find a way to go produce more income, right? And a dollar saved is a dollar earned. So of course, if there's ways that we can eliminate bad expenses, sure. But usually the second piece in that, once you're making enough money, we have this lovely thing called the IRS. I don't know if that's any synergy with the word Patriot or not. That's a debatable topic. Zero. Adam disagrees. Adam is not a patriot of the IRS. But no. Then you start having those conversations and leveraging advisors to say, okay, how can we keep more of this money? How can we understand tax loopholes and simultaneously be making proper investments? So I'm not here to tell somebody this is the only way to do it. My way is the best. You should go get $50,000 to $150,000 of 0% personal or business funding on a brand new business or an existing business to start that venture or to scale that venture. I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying my way is the only way. But what I will say, what I'm very confident in, is we got to make money, we got to keep it, we got to continue to invest it. Then it's usually a game of all 3. Right? It's deploying money into assets that have tax loopholes, but then also putting things in assets and opportunities like an algorithm trading bot that you can travel anywhere in the world. And again, full disclosure here, past performance doesn't indicate future returns, to where my 2 algorithms that people license from me, they purchase the software and the technology to be able to license it from me. It's doing double-digit returns month after month. Whereas traditional investments, if you're doing double digits in a year, that's really good. Again, past performance doesn't indicate future returns, but that actually moves the fucking needle in people's lives, right? Because if you're not making, in my personal opinion, if you're not making 20+% returns year after year, which is usually what businesses will do in terms of growth, the US dollar, fiat currency, it's crashed every single time in every single empire that's ever existed. So if your money is not working for you, again, a dollar saves, a dollar earned. So leveraging tax loopholes and buying assets and it's cash flowing consistently, then you're going to do it all for nothing. So again, a little bit of a long-winded answer there. You can tell I get excited and I get passionate about this.
No, that's good. So I definitely want to go down some of the specific paths you mentioned, but I did have a question for you, because I think that there's a lot of people out there that are talking about money, and you have some people that are telling people to go out and get as much debt as they can get, and invest into things like real estate and other things that are going to give them a return. And then there's other people on the other side of the equation, like the Dan Ramsey or the Dave Ramsey's. Excuse me.
Dave Ramsey. I love how you did that. The Dan Ramsey.
Dave Ramsey. So for the people out there that have kind of been in that Dave Ramsey camp, and are very scared of credit and debt in those terms, what's kind of what's the balance that you've struck there, or how do you think about that?
Well, look, I think Dave's principles when it comes to money, when it comes to financial literacy, is phenomenal. So I'm never here to say that, again, my way is better than Dave or anyone out there. But what I do know is he's definitely intelligent when it comes to financial literacy, and he does know that 80% of people are paycheck to paycheck. The reason why they're paycheck to paycheck is they're not producing enough income, and or if they are producing enough income, just very simple, income versus expenses. Their expenses, that credit, that debt, is usually high interest, which is crushing them. Credit and debt, all it is, in my opinion, it's opportunity. If you go get a student loan, that is an opportunity for you to go get a degree with an asterisk. Also, it's a great way for you to meet maybe some of your best friends. maybe your insurance guy, maybe the person that's your private money lender 5 years down the road, right? But when it comes to credit, I mean, when people actually understand how money works, right? Then they'll understand that fiat currency and money in itself is credit, right? We have this 3-letter entity. They're always 3-letter entities called the feds, and the feds that control the central banks and they control the money supply in the entire world, right? They say, hey, let's say, Nate, you're the U.S. Government, right? And I'm the feds. I'm gonna give you $1 billion, and it's gonna be at the Fed's interest rate at 3%, right? In return, I want some U.S. bonds. Poof, that money is made out of thin air, and then the essentially the U.S. government or the central banks can then lend out 10 times the amount at a higher interest rate when people put money into the institutions such as Chase Bank and local banks. So essentially the core of what fiat currency is and what money is, it's credit. It's money made out of thin air, right? So when people understand that, and they understand that credit literally controls any financial decision that they're going to make, it's not a matter of if it's bad, it's understanding that it's opportunity, and how can you eliminate the cancer credit, the bad debt, the bad credit that's sucking away, right? But then most importantly, how can we use it to buy assets that are cash flowing enough to cover that interest if there is any in place, such as an investment property, such as starting a business or deploying that into marketing, starting a podcast show, buying the equipment, paying for your production team, getting sponsors, getting guests, making connections, doing deals. And so, again, outside of building a business, the traditional ways to go, if people, in my opinion, are not using software, technology, AI to remove the number one reason why people lose money, emotions, then I would be curious as to what they're doing, right? And that might work for them. If not, it's, hey, here's an algorithm trading bot. There's 2 of them that's been designed, potentially more on the way. And if you're able to not use your own money as well, you can go get some business funding, then, hey, that's a recipe for potentially financial freedom.
So what got you into this line of thinking? Like, clearly you're looking at ways to enhance your life or the people who follow you, like the people you coach. You're looking at it from this lens of there's only so much time on the planet, and there's the traditional way of making money with those traditional ways, right? You could start a business, you can be an employee, or you can just be born into a really nice trust fund. But that's nice, more, right? Yeah, right. That's traditional.
Is that you, Adam?
People. I wish.
You look like a trust
fund.
No,
actually, I don't wish. Yeah, I don't wish that I was born into a trust fund, because then I would have never learned how to work hard, or maybe not. But the question I have is, like, what you're saying right now is looking at the financial landscape in a way that's kind of, it's a radical departure from traditional thoughts on finances, which is like the Dave Ramsey school of thought, or even the inverse of Dave Ramsey, which is like living on bad credit. So I guess the long way of asking what could be a short question is, like, what got you to the place where you're like, I want to create things that can be creating money in a more or less passive way. I understand that, like, with the algorithm trading bots, like, you're not doing every single trade, but you still have to manage it, and or the other kinds of investment opportunities. What got you to thinking this way and moving in this direction?
Yeah, and for the record, like, there is beauty in bootstrapping. Like, there's something about saying that, yo, this is the last dime I have in my bank account. It has to work.
Yeah.
And I think that when people use credit, it's a symbolism almost of abundance. And that is almost a symbolic word for America as well, when it comes to how much access we have to everything. Food, why people are obese, why people may or may not be confused on their gender because they have so many to choose from. So there is a negative consequence to abundance. Abundance can make people really fucking soft. right?
Yeah.
When you're using that last penny to start that business, or you're draining your retirement account and quitting your job, there's fucking beauty to it. Like there's things that you just can't explain to people that says that's literally the only reason why I failed and got back up and learned the lesson. So for people that may not want to use credit, they may not want to use the system to their advantage, I get it. But if it's not broken, don't fix it, sure, but if it could be better, it might as well be broken, right? So eventually you got to start working smarter. And success leaves clues, right? And what I mean by that is the wealthiest people in the world are in the most debt.
Yeah, can you explain that a little bit more?
Elon Musk didn't send a check for $40+ billion to buy X, right? Formerly known as Twitter. He raised capital, right? He's technically in debt to buy an asset, to buy information, to buy data. Donald Trump does not own his real estate free and clear. He didn't pay cash. He used the bank's money, right? And so whether you're building a skyscraper like him or you're buying a house, right? It's hypothetically on paper the same amount of risk. You don't pay what's due, here's the potential consequences, right? So success leaves clues, and the wealthiest people are in the most debt. So to answer your question, Adam, I'm growing up in small town Ohio, right? I see people around me not have the things that I want when it comes to just knowing that there's more, right? And it doesn't have to be necessarily about money, but it was more about a way of living and understanding that, wait, this is not the only way. Now I look back at them, I'm like, man, maybe these hillbillies were right. Maybe I need to go back and buy the land and milk some cows and get back to baling hay. But hey, you need money for that as well,
no
right?
Doubt.
You need some money for that. But no, to the point I'm getting at is I was in the mortgage industry for about 5 years, and originating people's loans to buy a house, working with realtors, building relationships. Most of the time, people don't qualify to buy a house, which is usually the biggest investment somebody will make in their lifetime. The number one reason why people didn't qualify to buy that house, whether it's a first-time home buyer program or whatever it may be, is because of credit, right? They're looking at credit, income, and assets. And it could have been something as simple as they have a medical bill in collections for $30 or $30,000 showing up on their personal credit report, and that's dropping their scores over 100 points. But they didn't know that they could go to cfpb.gov because it's a HIPAA violation for our personal information, specifically medical, to be reporting from TransUnion and Experian and Equifax, the three main bureaus on a credit report. And if they would just go to cfpb.gov, I'm not telling people not to pay their bills, I'm not saying any of that, but if they could get that removed, because legally it's not supposed to be on there, poof, their credit scores increase 100 points. Now they qualify to buy a house, or they're getting pre-qualified. They want to go buy a house in 3 to 4 months, and you can run their credit in advance and you can talk through these scenarios. That could increase their scores 20, 30, 40, 50 points, get them a better interest rate, save them tens of thousands of dollars. So that's where it started, Adam, by understanding that if you can never save money, you'll never likely make it and grow it, right? So coming from a core foundation of believing that what Dave Ramsey shares is absolutely very good information, but in my personal opinion, but wait, there's more, right? But wait, there's more.
I think that's actually, I just wanted to touch on that because I think that saving money is a very valuable skill set. Most people can't do it. Most people end up living paycheck to paycheck because they haven't learned the principle of putting some money away in reserve so you can protect yourself from financial disaster, and then enough that you have capital to deploy for opportunities. I think once you can learn how to save, then you can do something a little bit more risky, which is learn how to make more money, right? That's where you're going to say, okay, I have savings. I can now venture forth and try that crazy idea that I had to start this business because I don't have any room for growth in the current job that I'm at. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I'm just using a hypothetical here. And so as you learn how to save, then you can learn how to make more. And then once you learn how to make more, then you can put that money to work for you so that it can work on your behalf and you don't actively have to produce it yourself. Like, this is a realization that I also had probably in the past 5 to 6 years when I moved from being a freelance copywriter to a managing partner in what is now a mid 8-figure company. I was like, that the only reason I'm at where I'm at right now is because I had that shift in thinking. And so what you're touching on right here is actually something that I've begun to explore myself, which is why I think this is somewhat of a prescient issue for myself and probably a lot of people listening to this, because it's like, okay, there's a lot out here. We see the money printer just going burr. How do you tap into that? And of course, like, that could become insolvent, and that's an entirely different discussion altogether. But I think that there's a lot of opportunity, which is why I'm interested in what you're talking about here. I just had to interject.
What's funny to me too, I think another way to put it as well is, it's just my whole motto, all for nothing. Like, wait, so whether you live in small town Ohio or you live in a skyscraper in New York, whether you come from a trust fund or you don't, we're all making decisions to make money. They don't teach us about money, but yet we still deflect, at least teaching ourselves. But we'll teach ourselves how to do copywriting. We'll teach ourselves how to run a podcast show. We'll teach ourselves how to, like, no one taught you how to do copywriting. No one taught us how to do a podcast show, right? Now, again, maybe they did, maybe they didn't. But, you know, that's some of the questions I was asking myself and didn't even realize it until you reflect on it and you go through some ups and downs and you go through some successes and you go through some failures, as you're like, so you're going to work as a nurse, 4 12-hour fucking shifts, go through living hell to make money, but then you're deflecting the number one thing that you're here for is to make money. You should probably figure out what the fuck money actually is. Mm-hmm. Most people can't even articulate what money is, and that's okay.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that there's so much investment that goes into the making of it, but then it's that other piece isn't there?
I think it's psychological. I think it's like, if you are loudmouths like me talking about it, it's like, oh, who does he think he is, right? Or, well, Dave Ramsey's wrong. He tells people credit's bad, you know, so people have a bunch of opinions about him, you know. Well, my parents never made money, so, you know, who am I to make money? Or my parents made all this money, now I have all this pressure to make money too. It's like, no, you actually just probably need to put shit in place to not lose it and go find yourself on a world adventure, whatever the fuck you trust fund kids want to do, right? Which, again, I jokingly say that because I would actually imagine that is as equally pressure, because things in life are relative. Somebody that is homeless to somebody that is the wealthiest person in the world's son, their problems actually may be the same if they both believe it in their head.
There's definitely pressure, I think, in either of those, for sure.
Yeah, but, I don't think to answer your question, I think it's just, well, they didn't teach us about it in school. Well, I'm too fucking busy as a nurse, or I got a business. It's fucking hard. You got to go down rabbit holes. You got to empower yourself. It takes work and time.
Let's not forget also the conspiracy of the day, which is not a conspiracy at all. I mean, the marketplace is engineered to keep you as a consumer, which is a great thing. I mean, I think it's great for a couple reasons. One, you have available to you a lot of products that can enhance the quality of your life. There's never been a better time to be alive. There's so many things that even poor people can afford. So that's one thing, and I think that that's probably like the more duplicitous nature of the economy, if you will. But like you said, where it's psychological, what people have done is they've just tricked themselves into thinking, this is what I need this. I need this disposable good or this disposable product to be happy. And they're not really processing the exchange for something that may break in 6 months or that they're going to lose interest in a year as an exchange for their future. So they're borrowing from their future by buying something that they could have otherwise invested that would become an asset producing or an income producing asset, excuse me. And so I think that's also psychological, and I think that's on purpose. I think that's by design. I mean, school's not going to teach you how to stop being a consumer, because then all of a sudden, like, companies, including mine, would fail to be profitable. So yeah, everybody live on a commune and get back to baling hay.
Yeah, if you were Rothschilds in early 1900s and you were able to control information and control power and control decision making, who are we to say that we would not have been the ones that control the education system to create more factory workers rather than creating more creators, right, and more entrepreneurs? But I get why people are upset too. They have a very valid point, because, dude, it worked 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago. It worked. Getting a job, saving some money, not going into a bunch of debt, putting money in a retirement account. It worked. It absolutely worked in America. It doesn't now, because eventually fiat currency will lose its value. It's supply and demand 101. In the last 100 years, the US dollar has lost over 99% of its value. The last couple hundred currencies over the last 500 years have lost over 100% of its value in comparison to the US dollar, hence currency exchanges, right? So when we know this, it's like, hey, getting a job, putting money into a retirement account, or now Social Security that they're going to run out of because it's mismanaged. The country is $35 trillion in debt. Doing the traditional route is not going to work forever. It's what you guys said, and it's what your show is all about as well. You have to pave your own path. Having a job, there's nothing wrong with it. Fuck, I wake up almost every day sometimes going, should I just get a job? Man, running a business and having these responsibilities is tough, right? But getting a job and just relying on one paycheck and wishing and hoping that I'll have the ability to be alive in mid 60 to even cash that in one day, that's really fucking hard too, So people just have to understand that whether it's real estate, whether it's, stocks and bonds, whether it's crypto, you got to try something. you got to try something. The definition of insanity, doing the same thing, expecting different results.
So with the different people that you've been talking to and helping, like, do you have like a general, breakdown of like categories or buckets that people fall into, and then based on where they're at, because again, what we're talking about here right now is inflation is barreling down the tracks and seems to only be increasing. People only have, people have a finite amount of energy. There's only so much energy that they can expend on a day. And it's like, how do they take the energy so that...
Well, Nate, you have like 15 kids and you're in your 40s now. So
yeah, dude.
There's some 20-year-olds
well,
listening.
No, that's, I was, when you and I first, when you and I talked on our first call, just getting to know each other. I mean, like, one of the things I shared with you was, I've been starting, companies since, my mid 20s, and I've been fortunate enough to make a lot of money. I've lost a whole lot of money doing it. And, I'm 46 now. I've got, one daughter who's, prepping to go to college. I got another one that's not far behind her. And then I got a third one that, she's special needs. And the day that I check out, here and go on to the next, like, I need to have, at least $3-4 million, set aside for her, based on the way things look right now. Who knows what that actually might be in the next 10 years, but for us to feel confident that she's actually safe. And, and I was sitting there, I was like, man, like, I'm, and I also, I got sick, a couple years ago. Due to, like, how hard I had gone for so many years, and a couple other things that just led to a perfect storm of where I was barely able to work for about a year. And that was very scary for me, but it was a gift. And I'm very fortunate to have, I'm even healthier now than I was before it happened. But, as a husband, a provider, as a father, I became abundantly aware of the fact that I was like, man, I am not going to have the energy to hustle at the levels that I've been hustling at for these last few years. And I'm talking years of 2 to 3 hours of, sleep a night, with multiple things, multiple irons in the fire. And, like, you just can't carry on, you just can't keep that pace up. And so that's where when I talked to you, I was like, man, like there's got to be an intelligent way to start taking the energy that I have exerted somewhere. I've gotten this money back now. To me, it's a tangible representation of energy that's been expended. Now something's come back, but it's like, how can I take that energy and I can create an exponential effect with it? So that way, like I can actually start getting ahead, get in front of inflation, secure, make sure I've got a secure situation set up for my kids, and and hopefully, like ideally, their kids, but that's the thought process. So it's like, and kind of going back to the original question, like, are there kind of like buckets or categories that based on where someone lands, like in those categories, you would guide them differently?
Put it on red, baby.
that I understand.
First flight out, throw that shit on red.
That one I've done.
That's how I got here. I'm gonna be there tonight, just gambling my life away.
There you go.
There you go.
JK.
Which actually funny. Is that a joke or serious?
No, I've never gone to a casino in my life. That's not true. I've only ever done slot machines for like $10.
Yeah, you hear some interesting stories from the grandmas around there, so that's worth $10 in itself.
There you go.
For sure.
Which
I'm curious. I'll answer your question, but what are your guys' thoughts about digital assets like crypto?
I think they're great.
Man, this is it's a tough question for me. Right now, I'm in a position to make a sizable investment in a real estate property, and I'm looking at my crypto assets. And I started probably in 2020, 2021, at the advice of my dad, actually, before the entire crypto craze went on in 21. So I look at this.
Told you to buy at the top.
Well, actually, I bought on the way as it was going up. Like, no joke. I remember I got Uniswap, and I got it for $2. And so that would have been like September of 2020. And then I kept buying it, and I would sell it, and then it would go down, and I'd buy back in. I was just I was doing the bot trading on my own without actually there being a bot. And then come April of 21, it was up to $48. And I had like $60,000 worth of Uniswap, and I'm looking at it today, and it's worth barely anything. Like my unrealized gains on that are negative 50,000 or something like that. So the whole point is like, I have all of this sitting there in my ledger, and I want to liquidate it so that I can put it over here. But I also realize this is probably, some of these are going to come back. Some of them are gone. I think by and large, crypto, blockchain technology is a very useful technology. It's just that, man, I wish I had bought in 2017 as opposed to when I was buying, because I just would love to have that liquid capital so that I could put it in this investment property. And it's just like, and I was doing bots back in 21, 22 with crypto, and that ended up taking me for a run. And I realized, oh my gosh, like, I don't even know where to go with there, but I believe in it. I just wish that I wish the value that it was in 21 was where it's at right now. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I mean, that's it, man. Like, even, we were joking about betting in the casino, but even sports betting, right? Like, that's massive, and it's going to continue to grow and grow and grow and grow.
So
like, that is essentially an algorithm that's designed for odds, right? There's an algorithm, like you were saying, Nate, everything in the world is energy, right? Energy and vibration, and money is energy. That's all it is, right? That's why things like Bitcoin is essentially energy. The world is ran by energy, and so that's a whole like separate conversation in itself. But institutional hedge funds, BlackRock that owns the world, and all these big companies and firms, they use, and they have been using, algorithms and technology to remove the number one reason why people lose money, right? And it's emotions, and emotions is, unfortunately, Adam, for you, I'd have to put you in the category I'm going to label for you. It's greed. It's like, hey, 2,000 to 60,000.
I'm offended.
But
I can't believe you called me greedy.
been there, done that, right? And like, or it could have been, FOMO. Like, well, what if I don't hold like everyone on Twitter saying to do, and it goes to 100,000? But it's all about perspective. I think that's what I like to do when I'm talking to people, is like get a perspective of what they value, what they believe. They're like, dude, I don't give a fuck about Bitcoin, Tyler. I care about my farm, my family, my faith. And I go, sweet. Well, let's explore some of these things. Maybe you can have some specific tax write-off for a Ford F-150 because it's 6,000 pounds. Again, disclosure, not financial tax legal advice. Or maybe you can have some tax write-off for having a certain amount of acreage and livestock. Or maybe you didn't know that you could move your traditional retirement account to a self-directed retirement account so you don't have to wait till you're in your 60s or 70s and basically dead, right, for you and your family to enjoy this money that you've been breaking your back for. Move it to self-directed and borrow from it. Borrow from it because credit, when you borrow, it's tax-free. So that's what the wealthiest people do, right, is they'll put money into certain vehicles, investment vehicles, borrow from it tax-free to do whatever they want to do, whether that's buy something that is giving them satisfaction, some type of return on investment, or they're putting it into a self-directed account, borrowing from it to buy that first investment property or to buy that second or third one. But to answer your question, Nate, as far as like where should people start, I hate to give like the cliche response. It depends on their situation, but it's about making money, keeping it, and then investing. I will say, this is my personal opinion. This is obviously very biased. I personally think okay, do you actually have control of your income, right? Like, are you a business owner? Great. Okay, well then the likelihood of you having a ceiling to your income is probably not the truth. Sure, there's people that have different ventures that, they can maybe only realistically make X amount, especially if you're past like the startup phase of 2 to 3 years, you're probably not going to be growing at 300, 400, 500% return. But the point I'm getting at is, okay, you're on your phone a lot. You understand crypto. It's very evident that 5 to 15% of people's net worth should be highly considered to be in Bitcoin, right? And it's not, again, it's the philosophy of following the money, seeing where success leaves clues. BlackRock comes out and says that crypto's bad, and Chase Bank, the largest bank in the entire world, says it's a scam, the CEO, Jamie Dimon, but then they create a whole department. Sure. And then they say, hey, studies are actually suggesting that people should have upwards of 80% of their net worth into digital assets, right? So I'm not saying everyone should be going to buy Bitcoin, this and that. And if they do, Adam, I'm going to pick on you here. But
please,
it's just having perspective to say, yo, your money doubled in 6 months, in 6 days, or in 6 years, right? Or whatever that may be. Usually the rule of thumb, if your money doubles every 7 years, you're doing good. Like that's like the baseline. Like if you're doubling every 7 years, you're doing good. People are doubling that in modern times in 7 fucking minutes, in 70 minutes, in 7 days. So it's having perspective along the way. If you flip a property, right, and you doubled your money, you never go broke taking profits, even if you got to pay the government a little bit of their share, right? And so speaking on personal experiences, speaking on coaching, consulting, thousands of people over the years, it's perspective. You never go broke taking a profit. I think people should highly consider controlling their income and trying to grow that income as much as possible, take advantage of the tax loopholes along the way, and put things in certain asset classes that you can control from anywhere in the world, which is why I'm biased on digital assets like Bitcoin in particular, and why algorithm trading bots are extremely appealing, because I'm, no matter what, going to likely outpace inflation, which is 3, 4, 5 times more than what they tell you on the news. And if you can do that, take profits along the way, and have the core principle of understanding the value of a dollar and working hard for it, and not having your expenses exceed your income, eventually you'll get there. Eventually you'll get there, in my opinion.
Let's just say that the person who listens to our podcast is just an average American. I would hope that that's actually true. Just an average red-blooded patriot, works hard to provide for their family or for themselves, is just invested in the idea that they ultimately are the ones who should control their destiny. For you, what would be like the ideal client out of this demographic to come to you and try and realize some kinds of changes in their life, whether that's increased liquid capital or better investment strategies, tax advantages? Like what is the mindset? That's really what I'm looking for. What is the mindset that this person should have if they were to come to you and say, like, I need to make a change in my life?
Yeah, it's information. I think that the world is three things: information, law, and land. And what I mean by that is we're in the information age. We're all these false prophets talking on podcasts, putting content out. My way's the best way. You read this book, you read that book. This person's conflicting this one, this person's conflicting that. The next thing you know, we realize that like the actual truth is in the Bible, the basic instructions before leaving Earth. The Bible is like, oh, what Tyler said sounded really cool. It's actually this scripture. That's what I've discovered the last year or two. I thought I was hot shit. Then I'm like, oh, wait, fuck, it's all in this book. This Jesus
all
guy
in Proverbs,
had a couple things.
Ecclesiastes. Yeah, man.
He had a couple things figured out. What? I thought I had it all figured out. But it's information. Like, how do we get access to the right information? And some of the information is not right for everyone. And so to answer your question, it's like, dude, you're going into work every single day doing the same fucking thing day in and day out. On the way home, listen to another show. On the way home, listen to something about Bitcoin. On the way home, listen to something about dollar cost averaging into the S&P 500, which is potentially outpacing your retirement account that you have set up at work that you can't even pull from. If you do, you're getting hit with 10 to 20% fees and have to pay federal income tax on it, maybe move it to a self-directed. You have to empower yourself through information. And if not, you're just going to get spoon-fed the information that they want you to know. And the second piece of that is do things legally, do things with good intention, right? There's gray areas of everything in this world. But at the end of the day, that's why I'm biased on Bitcoin. Was early on, there's no one sole owner. So I knew that it wasn't going to be deemed as a security as these altcoins may or may not be, what we saw with XRP. And we have the whole conversation about the whole industry being a Ponzi scheme or not. It's like, well, hey, there's no sole owner. It's proven. It's in the white paper because I have that information. I took the fucking time. That's the problem. People like to do a couple things. They like to put all this time into something and to get the information, then they never put money into it. Or they like to just throw fucking money at it to solve it, and they never put the time in. And that's like hiring an employee. I'll just get another VA. I'll get another assistant. And then you don't even know if that next person sucks or not because you didn't put the time in. So it's this balance as well of trying to put enough time, try to put enough money. And unfortunately, you got to fail. You got to fail early. You got to fail often. You got to fail cheap. Because another thing I would tell you, Adam, I'm picking on you, man, with this crypto situation, but it's the truth. Like, and again, you can pull the skeletons out of my closet as well. But a huge thing that people do is opportunity cost.
Yeah.
Right? They don't rip the fucking Band-Aid off and keep going. They don't understand that, hey, the reason why December 31st we usually see massive moves in the market is because massive money, smart money, wealthy people, wealthy institutions are making decisions strictly on the second rule of money. We make it. How do we keep it? Oh, taxes. So we're actually going to sell our losses because that may offset the gains that we had that year. And now we're not losing the opportunity cost. Let's say that we put 100 grand into Bitcoin. Now it's only worth 50 grand, but you made 50 grand over here in crypto. It may be able to be washed out with profits. Again, I'm not a CPA. Do your own due diligence. Consult with your own counsel. But get that 50K. Fuck it. It's a loss, but you can maybe offset your profits over here. And when it comes to the tax liability, use that 50K for the down payment. If not, you're going to lose out on the deal over here in real estate. Now you're double fucked. So sometimes people hold on too long, right? And so information, law, and then land. As much as we want to talk about Bitcoin, as much as we want to talk about algorithm trading bots, as much as we want to talk about making money online, if they shut the grid off, I don't know if we're pigs walking into a slaughterhouse with Bitcoin. I don't know if they just, hit one button in China and 97% of our currency in America is digital. 97%. Less than 3% is actual paper money. So are we all walking in to a slaughterhouse, maybe. That's why maybe having some bullets is potentially a good idea as well, and maybe having some doom.
Some
Yeah,
bullets, guys.
maybe quite a few. But
Yeah.
but then it's also land, right? It's land, meaning when it comes to the law that's been designed from day one in this world, in human civilization, you have tax benefits of owning land. So that's why most millionaires have real estate in their portfolio. Not most millionaires were made from real estate. It's actually from financial services. It's most millionaires have real estate in their portfolio because it starts to take a turn of not making money, keeping it, investing it. It starts taking a turn of all three. So we got to make money. We got to deploy it legally into owning assets and land, because it starts turning into a game of how do we just like hedge risk? How do we start taking advantage of the tax play here? So, and some bullets there as well. Apparently, your audience might be into that kind of thing.
Yeah,
right?
I hope so, y'all. I hope you like bullets, and I hope you realize that right now is the best time to buy bullets.
How much did bullets go up from 2020? Like the average. Because I think I was telling you this, Nate. Sorry to I get excited about this too, because my friend brought me. I got to connect you guys. He's awesome. He owns like a tactical gear company. I'm sure you guys can get him on the show. You guys should get on his podcast show as well. But I'm getting all excited to him about. He's a very financially savvy guy as well, but real estate and Bitcoin, algorithm trading, and all this. And he goes, Tyler, how many guns do you have? How many bullets do you have? And then we're kind of talking through, and I'm like, dang, dude, like that's a really good way to put it, actually. Like, you're telling me people will be worth, whether they're worth a couple $1,000, $1, or millions of dollars, people won't hedge their risk with having some protection, and that's like primal insurance right there.
Yeah.
Right? That's like primal insurance to say, yo, wait, you have $100,000 of Bitcoin, but you don't have $1,000 in ammunition? You're crazy. And I was like, oh, that's a good way to put it. But I cut you guys off. I get excited, but I mean, shit, price of ammunition and guns, that shit 3, 4, 5x.
Yeah, it's kind of a lot.
Well, yeah, it did. Right now, it's roughly the same as what it was for the past 4 or 5 years. Surprisingly, I mean, you're not getting the same deals that you would have pre-2019, but you're also not paying through the nose. Like, I mean, there's spikes too, so that's what's really interesting. Like, something will happen. Like, there was a big rumor back in the fall around an ammo company being sold to a foreign entity, and prices almost doubled in that time period. Or anytime there's a big bill that goes through regarding gun control or whatever, you're going to see the prices spike. And then they tend to normalize. So, like, spikes are pretty severe, pretty intense, and then they can, that's because everybody starts buying. But if you buy on the other side of the spike, when people are less emotional, then you can get good prices. Like right now, I buy 9mm. I buy quite a bit of 9mm. Every few weeks I'm buying probably around 1,000 rounds. And I buy them, well, I should say it averages out to be about 1,000 rounds. I get 2,500, and it usually costs me about 21 cents per round. And then, of course, with shipping, gets it to about 22, 23 cents a round. So that's 9, which is pretty much, that's what I shoot mostly. It's a good training round. When you're talking about 223 or 556, if you're going for some of the cheaper stuff, like you're spending upwards of 48, 49 cents. And if you get into better stuff, 60 cents, 70 cents a round. But
how much are you guys shooting? I look at this as like going golfing, right? Like you go play a round of golf at a super nice place. Maybe you have a couple beers, a sandwich. What is it, like $100 to golf? Maybe like $50 to $100 at like somewhere solid. Mm-hmm. Oh
yeah, shit. I shoot about.
He's giving us the first-hand experience.
Well, what I do, so I've got a snap cap in here, which is a dummy round. So I work from home, and I just have this thing sitting on my desk, and I take a lot of practice round or practice shots. So I probably shoot 100 to 200 rounds that never actually fire every single day. So that gets me a lot of the muscle memory that I'm looking for, which is probably one of the most important things when you're talking about being able to effectively send rounds down range. When I talk about live ammunition, going to the range, going to the outdoor range, probably about 300 rounds a week between the two. I usually shoot about 209, about 100 in 5.56. So
300 rounds, but you're like aggressive. Like that sounds like that's not the average person. Yeah, like the average like gun person. You're like in it.
I'm in the 1%. And I do that because obviously we own a holster company. Like, it would be kind of crazy for me to not be in it so that I can understand, like, I do that because I love guns. I love shooting them. I believe in the Second Amendment. I believe the Second Amendment is one of the most important enumerated rights that we have in our Constitution. And of course, like, it's great market research, just being familiar with a gun. And like, the funny thing is, like, we sell the Vanish holster, VNSH, for all those listening. I don't use the Vanish holster when I go to the range, especially when I'm outdoors. Like, I'm using a Kydex holster because that's what's going to give me the best ability to reholster, draw, present, shoot. But I will train with the Vanish holster at the range. It's just not the thing that I'm using the entire time. Like, I'm still going to go ahead and practice. What is it like to draw from this holster? I'm carrying it 4 o'clock. And, I go through that whole thing. But the idea, again, is just like putting myself in the mindset of my customer and making sure that, like, I am who I am selling to. And that's just with that product. We have our survival company. We've got our non-lethal self-defense company and a couple others. So it's always just like, they're all like in my immediate vicinity, so I can touch them and like be around them and figure out that kind of stuff. Anyways, that's an investment.
Do you guys sell like survival kits? Like, shit hits the fan if you're in a big city or rural, like, you can buy.
Sure
like
do. Yeah,
Nice.
You can go to modernneeds.com. Anybody listening, we have our Ready for Anything kit, which has pretty much everything that you're going to need for a 72-hour disaster. We've got survival food over there. We've got all kinds of solar backup power. We don't have the extent of the inventory that's going to, keep your home powered for 72 hours in case the power goes out. It's not like a backup generator. What are those called? The home generators. I'm trying to even remember. But anyways, yeah, like, you can get fully outfitted so that if you needed to get the heck out of Dodge, you could.
What's a good argument? I'm curious on your guys' stance. I'm turning this around now. I'm going to start asking you guys questions. What's like I think a valid, maybe not, I don't know if valid's the right word. I have like a weird obsession watching like military documentaries and movies, like almost fucking every day, like every night on Netflix. And then I just like get in this severe anxiety state of like, holy shit, I would never do that. So first off, utmost respect to military men and women that serve this country. Holy shit, thank you for your sacrifices for our freedom. But when I watch those documentaries or movies, you see like, like the OG World War II to like, us in Afghanistan, and you see the technology. And people go, dude, Adam, the gun you just pulled out ain't going to do shit to the government if they want to come knock on your door. They have drones, and they have the ability to hit a button and turn and freeze your assets and XYZ. So I think people like have a quote unquote valid point when they say that. Like, I don't think that we're going to maybe do so well against the United States government.
So here's the thing, is I actually was just reading about this last night in this book called The Boniface Option. And for those who are aware, St. Boniface was a guy who chopped down this crazy tree in the area of Germania back in the 10th century. It was like a sacred tree. He cut it down and he said, my God triumphs over your gods. And then like as he was cutting it down, it just fell because this giant gust of wind came from presumably God. So anyways, in this book, which is about what he did, it says that we could have all the guns in the world, which we pretty much do. The fact of the matter is, it's not so much that our guns don't match up against the might of the U.S. military. You've seen what a bunch of people in Afghanistan have been able to do to some of the mightiest countries or militaries in the world for the past 50 years. They were able to do it because they have social currency. So the people in their villages and the whole entire country is willing to fight and die for the people next to them. That's something that I think is absent here in the United States, which is why the push for patriotism in our podcast is so important. Because if you don't have a community that is something that you are willing to die for, if you don't have a close social network, social fabric that is knit together to where you know that somebody is going to die for you the same way that you would die for them, then we could, every single person could have a tank and we would still lose. So I think that's what's more important. We have 450 million registered guns in the United States, more than anybody by far. But what we are lacking in is a commitment. But what we're lacking in is just like this ability to care for others, because I think what the guy was talking about is especially like the Gen Z and millennials, like most people live these atomized lives where they're just living by themselves. They're lonely. They don't feel like anybody cares for them. And they're right. Like, I think that the community that I live in is a very interesting one because my church is about 500 people, but I see the people in my church on average 3 to 4 times a week. And that's not just like, oh, hi. It's we spend time together, hours upon hours together. We know each other. We're involved in each other's lives. Like, that's where we're investing because we understand that, like, outside external forces can do a lot to us, but if we have this bedrock of community based on faith, then we're going to be able to be a strong resistance against anything that may come at us. And I think that, like, what we're trying to do here with our church is not only just live a life of meaning, but we're trying to model something that would then be enticing enough for others to try and do the same thing. So I think that's really what it comes down to is, do we have that social currency? And we don't. And so and the thing is, they don't even have to do anything to us right now. They're destroying us with all of their crazy ideologies.
Why would they do anything?
We're
ripping ourselves apart.
Right. They wouldn't. They don't need to at this point. So I got long-winded. I love talking about this.
Yeah, I love it too. I still got plenty of time too, by the way, if you guys do.
Yeah, let's go.
I'm good till 5. I'm going to mark that,
okay,
by
cool.
the way.
But if you look at the in my opinion, the amount of information that America may have through the CIA, through the FBI, through other intelligence, and correct me if I'm wrong too. Like when we send, I got to be careful how I phrase this because might piss you two off or might piss someone off listening. But like when we send money to Ukraine or something, like it also could be a business deal. It also could be a form of control.
It is what it is.
Yeah,
most of the billions of dollars that have gone to the Ukraine, if you will, have gone to defense contractors. So it's a way of, it's essentially embezzling, right? Like it's not going to Zelensky, although parts of it are going to Zelensky. The entire thing has been propagated for the enrichment of select industries or select companies inside of various industries. If you want to look at where all the funding goes, it's very easy to find out that it's not going to the citizenry of the Ukraine. Not that I even think that they should get it. Like, I don't really care. We need to take care of America first, and then we can worry about some blue and yellow flag. And I don't care about things that are blue, apparently. Blue hair, blue flags. Yeah, don't care for those. That's why I have 23 kids.
But it's also a potential, maybe it is actually helping America. Because how we made the weapons, let's say, to send over to support these employed X amount of U.S. citizens and or made companies in America X amount of money and supply and demand. If we don't send these weapons somewhere, then there's a shelf life to them, right? Or if this money that we got from the feds, right, the Fed at X percent doesn't get deployed, then it's like you said, potentially embezzling, intentionally, money laundering, whatever word you want to use.
Yeah, I think what you look at is what Eisenhower said, warning about the military-industrial complex back in the 50s. What we have right now are endless wars for the sake of propagating. We're propagating violence in not our country, thank God, but elsewhere, so that the machine can keep humming along. This is the whole complaint around $50,000 toilets in Afghanistan and all these kinds of things. And, like the F-35 costing $1 billion a piece and taking so long. So I think it's ultimately corruption. And I'm sorry, dude. Nate, I'm taking up a lot of airtime here. Just getting all the oxygen out of my own room.
I think, it's conversation's going to
Nate,
come.
do you think, what about the because you're down in Texas?
Yes, sir.
Can we disclose
Sure.
that?
Yep. Oh yeah.
Are you're one of the guys that are like, I'll fucking drop the pen. I'll test out the product right here. We don't need to go to a gun range.
Fine.
Pull
Let's
up.
go. No, I can walk out of my office and just start laying rounds down. It's nice living on acreage.
That's crazy. Dude, I think the biggest thing for me is, I have what I need to protect myself, but you were saying this, Adam. It's like the if someone broke in, right? If shit hit the fan, it's like I can tell it's not like second nature kind of thing. Whereas I go boxing, so if I don't know, I got fucking punched or something, I would be like, all right, well, let me back up a little bit for the record here. I ain't gonna be whooping no one's ass, but it's second nature. You put a blindfold on, a basketball in my hand, I could probably make the shot. I could probably make the shot. It's second nature. So I think that's the concern as well, is those that do have guns, right? Going through like proper training, continuing education. If you're a realtor, if you're a financial service person, right? So I think there's a lot of valid points as to gun laws and certain things to make sure people are mentally stable, making sure they're going through like continuing education, checking the boxes, and shit. If anything, it makes the country even more money, and there's, I'm sure, a way to tax this and tax that. But anyway, that's a whole.
Well,
I'm sure that's a whole.
Where I like where you were going though is, you kind of mentioned whether we're talking about, you know, your skills with the firearm or your skills with the basketball, or if you put the boxing gloves on. There's a mindset, there's muscles, and there's habits that you can build as it relates to those, to each of those skills. And we were talking earlier about money and the way people relate to money. We were talking about
same thing.
The way that 100% is the same thing. And I'd like to spend a little bit of time there, because I think to your point earlier, like we spend a lot of time training, in our specific areas of expertise. Like I've spent a lot of time, while I would not consider myself an A-level marketer anymore, but there was a point in time where I was doing the things that translated. I was getting lots of training. I was going through courses. I was spending lots of money in paid advertising. I was overseeing other people doing it. That was a skill that was really sharp and honed. I don't do it now. So unfortunately, I work with somebody like Adam and have people on his specific team that they're the experts in that now, and I focus in a different area, but. So we're all doing these things, but as it relates to money, and for the people that that they're making money, they're trying to figure out how to get out in front of inflation. They're trying to figure out and hopefully like we talked about earlier, like continue to build a legacy for themselves and their family. But where's a good place for somebody to start, like in that category of the mindset, muscles, and habits, to start making getting the small wins as well as getting giving themselves the reps and making the mistakes, in a way that enables them to, hopefully continue to build and, grow their worth and, and the ability to enjoy life.
Phenomenal question. So usually it comes down to time and money in both, right? And for somebody that has not money, they likely have more time, right? So if you're one that may be, man, I just got businesses. I'm Nate, and I got daughters going to college. I got things to attend to. I got some money. This is what Adam was saying, in my personal opinion, which I think is great. It's community. It's people. Iron sharpens iron, right? And so if you're trying to make a move doing something, well, that's going to require money and experience as well, hypothetically. That's why most people, for example, don't buy real estate, because it requires money and experience. Hey, this doesn't have to be your money. It doesn't have to be your experience either. If you can leverage credit, you can go get 50, 150K of 0% capital. You can strategically finance deals, or, hot topic these days is creatively financing deals, right? Assuming somebody's mortgage, because they're locked in at a lower interest rate. Seller financing, like that's the new hot topic. It was the Burr strategy. You buy it, you renovate it, you rent it out, you refinance, and you repeat the process. Home prices skyrocketing, interest rates skyrocketing. Now you have to get creative, and that's the word right there, is creative. What got you to be able to pay your bills, have some money, you had to use some part of creativity. Like, hey, I got to go to college, or I got to get a job. I have to learn a skill set like marketing, and I got to go create value, solve problems. But also, you got to lean on you got to leverage, right? Like you got to leverage potentially other people's money, but you also got to leverage other people, right? Like go partner with somebody on a real estate deal, passively invest, maybe front the funds for it, and go to the project and learn the nuances of what it takes to actually get a deal done, right? Or if you're like, nah, I don't want to do that, but I still got some money and I don't know what to do with it. Well, you've done it the traditional way. You need to potentially consider what I refer to as a new digital economy. Like, is there something from your phone, right? Whether it's digital assets like crypto and getting some type of exposure there, or is it, again, algorithm trading bots to where something is trading for you when the market's open 24/7, 365 that you have control over anywhere in the world, and you can still, go in there and stop the trades if you need to. Like you still have control of it. But again, I might be repeating myself or maybe not giving you the clear answer that you're looking for. But if someone is just doing enough to get by, and they may have a little bit, right? They have a job, they might have some money in retirement. They got to do something different, right? They got to do something different. They probably don't have that much time because no one fucking does. Like everyone says they don't have time, right? And you don't ever have enough money to feel comfortable to make that leap until something goes wrong, right? Until you get sick and you can't work for nearly a year. That's when you have to adapt. That's when you have to evolve. That's when you have to try something different. The beauty about investing and the beauty about money and getting your money to be invested, it doesn't get sick. It doesn't need a day off. It doesn't wake up tired. It doesn't miss a meeting by 30 minutes. So you got to fucking try something. You have to try something. If you don't, your dollar will be losing upwards of 10% of its worth year after year at the trajectory that we're going, printing off money to send to other countries. It's happened since the existence of time in fiat currency. Every single fiat currency crashes. It's why we say there's weapons of mass destruction in other countries, so we can go deploy the US dollar in that country. When we print off more supply, and we're not growing in terms of the need of that currency, demand, then whatever that thing is, fill in the blank. Whether it's a pen, a house in your neighborhood, or fiat currency, it will become devalued. Don't believe me? What was your fucking grocery bill in 2019 to right now? Probably doubled. Okay, well, that means that if I didn't double my income from 2019 to now, I'm probably not getting ahead. My lifestyle probably didn't get better. So again, I'm biased, guys. Like I'm very biased. I think that it's very obvious that S&P 500, putting the money in the market can be a good idea. Getting, income from dividends, traditional retirement accounts, considering leveraging insurance, whole life, or IULs. But the key with assets, in my personal opinion, is it producing cash flow? Do I have control of it? And can I borrow from it if need be? Right? Like, for example, bringing up insurance, whole life, or IULs, index universal life insurance. People don't want to admit this, but insurance runs the world. If you want to get anything done, you got to run it by your insurance. Or do you have insurance? If not, you got to pay out of pocket more, or whatever the case may be. The point is, though, is if you're putting money into something, in my personal opinion, can I pull from it? Right? Like if Adam goes and buys Uniswap again and at 1000x, this is where people got crushed, is they were going to go borrow from it, and they did, and then that whole platform goes insolvent. It goes bankrupt. So then their funds are stuck on there, right? So if you can borrow from it, you can leverage against it, and you can get that leverage and borrow from it tax-free, which is credit, which is debt, which is why the wealthiest people in the world are in the most debt, because they're leveraging their assets, continually borrowing from them to buy more cash flow. That's the formula, in my opinion.
And Nate, I see where you're going for this, and this kind of touches on the podcast we did on Friday about hustle. So I think what you had said earlier, Tyler, was like success leaves clues. So I think if you're in a position in your life where you're like, I have to be able to make a change, I don't know what, exactly I should be doing, that's where you can begin to study what's happening in the marketplace, or just like, again, who's successful, what are they doing, why are they successful, copy that, and then, like we talked about again on Friday, hustle hard for a short time to get that stood up, to make it so that you're actually able to produce revenue. And then it's like you can actually take your hands off of the wheel, not off the wheel, off the accelerator. So take your foot off the accelerator for a bit, allow yourself to recalibrate, and then it's like, okay, I got this new venture making money. I can quit the job that I had that wasn't making me nearly as much. I've now doubled my income. As long as you don't let your lifestyle get out of control. I think that's another thing that we should probably touch on, is like, just because you make more money doesn't mean you should be spending more money, especially if you're trying to make wise investment decisions. I mean, you should spend more money if you have to, especially if it's on the business. But, you know, you don't want to increase your income from $50,000 and then all of a sudden be like, well, now everything that I pay for, I'm going to double that. That's not a good way to get ahead. But whole point, success leaves clues.
Well, dude, one thing I wrote down from like what you guys were saying, which again was like an epiphany that I had talking to my other buddy about ammunition and thinking of that whole industry as an asset class in itself, is your audience knows that if there's a bill that is going to get voting in the next 3 months, whatever, the ammunition is going to be bought up. So it's the way I look at, let's say, Bitcoin. What's the 200-day moving average? What's the average price of Bitcoin the last 200 days? It's one of the many indicators to say whether or not you're buying Bitcoin at a discount or you're overpaying, right? And so I would look at that, not saying 200 days, but it's like, hey, if this round of ammunition was, Adam, and you know, correct me here if I'm wrong, you were giving me some numbers earlier. Let's say 10 cents. And you see it on sale for 8 cents, there's a 2-cent arbitrage. Or if it's 20 cents, like, it might be overpaying. So like that hustle alone, right? We all hear the stories like Gary V, go to yard sale, flip things, but it's finding and honing in on your craft. For some people, it's real estate. They know, hey, I could buy this property. The foundation is good. We just got to fix the roof, paint, patch, you know, be able to throw in some LVP. We're good to go. We can rent it out for this. It'll cash flow. Your audience might understand ammunition. They might understand this area of expertise to know that they're buying this ammunition at a 10% discount. Are they able to flip it? I don't know. That's my ignorance there, but it's understanding that concept of what skill set do you have, right?
Sure.
Maybe you go get a 0%. Maybe you go set up an LLC, go set up a business bank account, go get 0% business credit card, go buy some ammunition and flip it.
I don't think you need a license to do that. You may. I'm not sure. But
not in Texas. Not in Texas.
Probably not in Texas. Yeah. The application is what.
No idea.
I bet you do need a license to resell ammunition, but we won't worry about that because we're not suggesting you resell ammunition. It's the concept at play that really matters, because like everybody has something to offer. And especially like if you're like, I can do this that these other people are having a lot of success with. Like I think about, you know, what does a truck driver have available to them? Somebody who's doing long haul truck driving. Well, they've got time, so they can invest the time into what they know. What do they probably know about distribution schedules? And they probably know about freight and freight costs. And they could maybe, you know, start a freight company. Just the ideas there.
So
and dude, what's behavior too, right? Like, sorry to interrupt you there, Nate, but like, what's consumer behavior? When I'm looking around and seeing everyone on their phone, I'm like, okay, well, getting somebody quote unquote convinced to be able to download this software that's produced these type of returns, they shouldn't be making their decisions on that because nothing's guaranteed, right? But it's like, dude, you can have this on your computer, on your phone, anywhere in the world. Seeing kids buy GameStop, the stock, you know, and that whole crazy fiasco story. So that's really personally what I recognized was like, do I want to be something that seems more forward thinking or something that is outdated, right? That's going against me. And one of the other things that is interesting as well, most of the biggest companies in the world or the wealthiest people in the world are designing things, unfortunately, to actually connect us more virtually, but disconnect us more individually in person. So that's a whole conversation too.
Yeah, there's definitely more than enough evidence to support that taking place. One question I want to ask is there may be other people that it's popped in their head as we've kind of discussed some of the different ways of investing, and you've talked about this digital economy. Like, what are your thoughts on gold? Are you actually investing in gold at all?
No, no, I'm not. I personally don't see why someone would, and I would love to hear as to why somebody believes I should. Because
What about
if you look at the charts, you look at the data, it's
Yeah.
I mean, dude, Bitcoin is just significantly better. In my personal opinion, the issue that I do have, and this is my ignorance, you guys can help me with this, is they say it's God's money, right? They say gold is God's money. I think I could be wrong. I legitimately am talking from pure ignorance right now. But I think it's more symbolic. I think it's more of, gold and whatever. It's energy, right? What's the most effective energy? What's the most effective, efficient energy? Being able to send money to somebody that will go from US dollar to Bitcoin and then convert over to euros. That sounds more efficient and effective than mailing them a chunk of gold. If shit hits the fan, packing up suitcases of gold, right? It'd be like, well, if gold performed at those type of returns, why would I not just maybe buy 5% more ammunition? Because if shit would hit the fan, I don't think I can throw a fucking gold bar like Randy Johnson and kill a fucking person like a bird. I'd rather shoot them if I need to, right? And you can't eat fucking gold. Like, what are you going to do? Trade me gold bar for a turkey sandwich? Like, that's just my opinion. When the philosophy around it, though, and again, this is my ignorance, is when the US dollar came off the gold standard in the 70s, right? In other words, this is what that means. It's like, hey, if I owe you money in US dollar and it's collateral, right? It's like if a bank gives you money for your house and you don't pay the mortgage, they come and take the house. If you owe somebody in fiat currency, then it's essentially backed by US dollar or the valuation of it. So the currency doesn't go up and down and sideways and everything in between, but also it's a way to collateralize debt as well. But outside of that, once we're off the gold standard, it's like, well, what's the point of this? Now, are we going into Afghanistan and Iraq saying there's weapons of mass destruction and taking those countries' gold as well? That's a
probably
rabbit hole to go down
taking
as
the
well.
gold and everything else that's not absolutely nailed down to the earth. Unless we're talking about our own weapons.
Let me sell them on gold.
Unless we're talking about our own weapons and own vehicles, and we leave those things. But
yeah, sell me on gold. I'm
not trying to sell you on gold. I just curious. But it's funny. I hadn't thought about it in the terms that you had just mentioned. You are connecting dots. Like a few minutes ago, you talked about, looking at how we're all on these phones and the way that we're consuming things now, and there's this new economy that exists, and that's only expanding faster and faster. And gold is not anything that there's not a place to truly like where commerce is happening with gold in the digital economy. So that's anyway, I
was going to sell them on it.
And this is me legitimately trying to do my best, and then Adam.
I want to hear what Adam's going to say.
So I can see you get.
No,
I want to see him worked up a little more. I like to see him
over the repositioning his hat. He's getting ready.
He's like, this is why you got to get gold. Which again, I'm not saying this is the whole point though about finances and money and investing. If it works for you, it makes you sleep at night, and I'm wrong. Fucking sweet, dude. Sweet. Do you have tax advantages around it? Are you creating cash flow around this? I don't know about you, but I personally, now knowing what I know, I would rather have that in ammunition than in gold. That's me personally. Because if I have it in Bitcoin or gold, they're both fucked. Right? If I have it in cash, I mean, shit, might as well be Pablo Escobar and just burn it to keep yourself warm. So now, all things considered, sure, not World War III. Is it good to have it part of your investment portfolio? Sure, I don't know. I mean, paper gold, that's a whole other conversation. That's going to be the issue that we're going to probably start seeing with the Bitcoin ETFs is paper Bitcoin, not people actually owning real Bitcoin.
Yeah, I think that not that I have a lot of gold. I have way more Bitcoin, way more Ethereum than I do gold. I think the one thing that could be said about gold is that it has been a precious commodity since the dawn of human history. Ever since we have recorded what we like as humans, gold has been there. If you look at the total supply of mined gold ever produced, it is said to be less than what would be the volume of 2 Olympic-sized swimming pools. So that's not a lot when you think about how much gold there is, and then you think about how big the world is. So in a collapse scenario, especially if you're thinking about grid down, EMP, something like that, obviously Bitcoin, Ethereum, all of those things, pretty much worthless. You can't actually use them. If you have just a small amount of gold, you can use it to barter. You can use it for exchange. It will have value regardless whether or not like another person speaks the same language as you. It's going to have value regardless of whether or not something else was really valuable and now has fallen out of favor just because of the history of gold. And I think that's where I don't think that you should be making significant investments in gold, especially if you're looking at it from an investment strategy. Like, I just don't think that it's worth it. Like, Peter Schiff can try and sell me the other way, and I will never believe him. Like, it's just the idea that you should probably have it if you have a long-term strategy behind it and an ample enough supply that you could be able to trade with it efficiently, but not so much that it's going to weigh you down. I mean, we just gave away a $100,000 Jeep Gladiator and $25,000 of gold and a year's worth of survival food. Damn. And the $25,000 in gold was just like 11 coins, this tall.
Was not a lot
so it's nothing. Like, yeah, if you were to carry it around with you, like one coin, $2,500, you would never know that it's sitting there. Like, it would weigh less than 2 or 3 rounds of ammunition. But you can fractalize it. So if you needed to trade with it, you could. It's soft and malleable enough that you could just punch out a little bit of it or chip a little bit off, and everybody again knows that it has that inherent value. That's the only reason I would say have gold. I don't think I would ever say invest in gold actively, unless you're a precious metals trader, in which case you're not listening to our advice anyways.
I think I'd rather buy one of your guys' products. See, I was trying to throw you guys for a layup to be like, yeah, fuck gold. You got to buy some of our stuff.
Well, it's fundamental to prepper and survival ideology is precious metals are just one of those bartering tools. I mean, honestly, silver would probably, yeah. Oh yeah,
I love it. I like gold. I'm Italian, so it's like in our blood already. I think what's cool about gold is the conversation of like back to the Egyptian time of pyramids, and I think that they said the Great Pyramid was the very cap, the top of it.
Oh, dude,
was gold, and so
do you know why?
The like electricity current.
Yeah, the conductivity, and then you're probably signaling to all of the spaceships in outer space.
There we go.
There we go. We just opened this up, baby.
Take some shrooms. Let's go.
Yeah, if you need to get back on the grid, you have to have gold. So that's why you should have it. You can get all of your Bitcoin back with gold.
That to be honest with you, I think that's the only thing that, to me, again, my ignorance around this, if you're an electrician or engineer, smarter than me, which is pretty easy, that's what makes sense to me. Like, oh, it's got to be a form. Everything's energy. Everything comes back to energy. It always comes back to energy. So it's like, oh, it's probably just very effective way to move energy.
Yeah,
it's better than copper. It's more effective than copper. So I think that's why it's God's money. I think that's why you see it in every civilization. But then it also looks cool.
It
also looks cool. If you got civilizations with kings and queens and all that in between, eventually you just go, well, we have enough land, we have our sewage system in place and food and things to do and buildings. Like, oh, let's just deck this shit out in gold. So
yeah,
who knows?
Getting to the point of society where you're just doing random things because there's not enough other problems to worry about.
Right.
kind of going back to the mindset, muscle, habits aspect. So when we're talking about the mindset around money, I think, there are people that are probably listening to this as we've kind of talked about some of the different things that they could be doing to be moving the needle. I think, I even find myself experiencing a little bit of resistance, and then I've done trading, I've participated in crypto, and I've made some, I've lost more at this stage. I still absolutely believe in it. And it's something that, but as I was sitting, I was like, man, I still experience some resistance, in that regard. What are some advice that you have for someone that's wanting to really, because I think part of the resistance is probably fear. It's probably fear of the unknown. It's it's like anything else. Like when I was, going down the entrepreneurial route, I definitely traded, time that I could have gone and done other things I enjoyed doing, but I decided to invest time and energy into that. So there might be the fear of loss of time and, and things that they want to do that they know they'll get enjoyment from. But any coaching on that side, just, someone getting their mindset right and how to be approaching and thinking about money and, and starting to move in the direction of training the muscles. So let's start there first, just that mindset piece.
Nate, how many times do you check Instagram in a day?
Gosh, I'll probably on when I'm taking breaks from things, I'll take probably 3 times a day. It's usually when I take a break for food or something like that. It might get a little bit heavier in the evening after the kids are down.
Taking a shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
How about you, Adam?
Probably 2 times a day. I try not to use it.
So
my email, I check my email 80 times a day. I check Skype probably that many times. I check a lot of other things way more.
How many times do you guys check your bank account a day, or your investment accounts, or your
when I was doing
where there's
when
money,
I was
wherever there's money.
When I was heavy into crypto and dollar cost averaging, Bitcoin and Ethereum and all that stuff, man, I was looking at that every day. I mean, right now I'm not looking at it. I mean, I'm not looking at anywhere near that.
I looked at it a bit today.
So that's what most people. I'm sorry, Adam.
I looked at my bank account and investment stuff today because I was trying to pull together a bunch of funds for a deal, so I was running all the numbers. But typically, probably every couple days.
So isn't that funny that we'll look at our email and Instagram that's generating us. The intention of doing that is because there's money on the line. If we don't respond back to this customer, they don't get an order, customer service, an order went out. But where the fucking money is, we don't even check. Right. We don't even look at it once a day.
Okay.
So why even learn about Bitcoin, real estate? You're looking at your email and Instagram 30 times more than you're looking at where the fucking money is already. So that's where we need to start. People will wake up and they'll click on Instagram. You need to start training your brain and the habits and the muscle around where's the money.
So would a good place to start for somebody just be more routinely watching what's going out and what's coming in?
Yeah, because, dude, I'm not one of those guys that's wake up at 4 a.m., don't check your phone, do red light sauna, cold plunge, get a workout in, drink bone broth, eat grass-fed steak. Dude, I love all that stuff, but I like fucking pizza. I like Netflix. And I'm not one to say don't look at Instagram 30 times a day. I'm not I genuinely try to do my best of being my real authentic self. But what I will fucking say is whether you look at it one time a day right before you go to bed, or maybe when you wake up, you do grab your phone and you do start scrolling. Dude, I'm not a neuro fill in the blank and what that does to I'm not Joe Dispenza knows what consequence it does to our mental health. If you look at your phone or not, the point is you're doing all these things to generate money in all these different areas, but you don't even pay attention where it is in the first place. You're keeping your eye off the ball.
Got it. That makes sense.
You're keeping your eye off the ball. So I'm not saying this to deflect the question, to say, hey, what are some habits? That is the fucking habit. Where's the money going?
No, well, it's really break it down where you know where your money's going. I mean, knowledge is power, right? It's like if you know where your money's going, then you can go, oh, you know what? Like, I've actually got probably 10 more percent available than I thought to do some other things with. Like this, I don't need that over there. Like I've got this and I'm not even using that. Like let's redivert that. So first it's like just get your own house in order first. So like go through the uncomfortable exercise of actually looking at the decisions that you've made in the past, and are those decisions reflective of where you're wanting to go in the future? And if not, start making some adjustments and preparing yourself for like actually, so you're figuring like, so let's, I use the gym example. So it's or working out. Like I know I want to work out. I know I want to get in good shape. So I'm going to get the environment set up right so that like I know I can actually do it. So like let's look at our financial situation and let's get things prepped and ready for us to actually start making some moves.
And you know why people won't? Because they're scared to see what they're going to see.
That makes sense.
It's fear. It's not faith. It's not operating in it's fear. It's low frequency. It's shame. It's guilt. It's all the low frequencies that puts people in a fearful state because they're scared of what they're going to see. Instead of just taking it on the chin and saying, no, I have faith that I'm going to turn this around. If it takes me checking this fucking bank account or bank accounts or investment accounts 7 times a day, or at least just once a day for however long, just focus on today, see where it is. And again,
or just once a week, like just babies. Like if you're not doing it at all, it's like get in there once a week and just look at the last week. Here's where everything went.
Yeah, and here's why. It's because it's like, oh, you're having your credit card statement come out on the due date. Have your payment come out 2 days before the statement date. Here's why. 30% of your credit scores through FICO, not your Vantage score, through Credit Karma and these free resources that are not your real FICO score, which is what lenders use to actually approve you for credit cards and loans and mortgages, etc. Check your real FICO score, look at your bank account and go, hey, are my credit cards getting paid on the statement date, or at least, like I said, 2 days before? Because once it clears your account, the statement date is when the lender, the creditor, is reporting to the 3 bureaus what the balance is on that credit card, let's say, not the due date. That's just saying, hey, this is when it's due. If you don't pay it within 30 days of this, it's going to be late. So that's one little trick right there, which is 30% of people's credit score, where they can, boom, boost up their scores 10, 20, 30, 40 points. But if you don't know where your money is, and I would argue to say, Nate, people need to start every day right here, right now. It takes 3.7 seconds to just check it. You don't like what you see? Fucking change it then. Right? Can you not go make more money right now? Well, no. Expense. Look at your expenses. Expenses are like fingernails. You got to trim them every once in a while. I ain't saying rip the fucking things off, because guess what? We ain't peasants. We gotta have fun. Right. We gotta be spending money. If anything, I'm the one that's saying spend more. Right? But you got to trim them. You got to keep your eye on the ball to say, we got Hulu, YouTube TV, HBO, Netflix. I haven't even logged in. I just clicked on the app. It says update the app. That means I haven't used it for fucking 2 weeks, 30 days, 2 months. Delete it. If you really want it that bad, re-download it and pay for it again. So that's it right there. It's like you got to start somewhere. And it's starting and paying attention. Pay attention.
So mindset-wise, start paying attention. We talked about community. So, find a community that's also heading in that direction. So there's some accountability built into that. So find some other people, find somebody that has successfully gone down the path that you're trying to go down. What else? Anything else on that front?
I call it the three C's. It's communication, community, and currency. You gotta communicate. Right, you got to communicate, whether it's at your church, whether it's an online mastermind, whether it's somebody like you guys that have a podcast. Send them a DM, send me a DM, ask for help. This is what's going on, and be a part of a community. Right, it's just tribal stuff, right, to where people can resonate, they can relate, and I believe if you do that over a period of time, more currency will flow your way. So communicate, community, and currency.
Yeah, that fear thing.
I think that's a great place to.
What's that, Adam?
I was gonna say I think that could be a great place to end just because it's 4:57.
Yeah, that was good. I mean, I think it summed it up well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just don't want to. Yeah, my wife's like, hey, you gotta make dinner because I've got a meeting. It's like, oh yeah. I'm gonna mark this just for Carson, just so he knows that we're kind of jibber jabbering, or I am.
If you guys, I'm actually about to. Or let me know whenever
You're
you
good.
stop recording.
Oh yeah, I'll stop. Well, actually, we'll trim this up. I'll just. What did we say? Oh, yeah, that's a perfect place to end. There.
All right, cool. Boom. Because I'm actually about to. I'll keep you guys posted how this goes. Because first off.